studio units, and then basically the 2-bedroom one is in the middle, and they have 3 1-bedroom units on each level.
Okay. I have a question.
Yeah.
When they submit the plans, they can change it after that? Or could they change it to anything else they want?
So, because it's a PD, we're actually modifying the appendix as well. So
Okay.
appendix B, which will have the concept plan, which will, here's the concept plan.
Yeah.
So that'll be attached to the ordinance itself, so that that's what we'll have, when they come in for the actual site plan. You have the actual concept, the site plan.
Oh, the site plan, sorry.
Yeah, it's down the road.
It's up here. Well, it was there.
So when they come in for an actual site plan, that's what we're gonna make.
Okay.
If the council approve it, that's what we're going to expect, because it'll be part of the ordinance itself. So that map will be attached to the PD zone.
And it will have exactly the same units they are proposing right now.
And this will, elevations will also be attached to the appendix B.
Sorry, can we go back 2 more slides?
One,
Or just, I'm sorry, one more, 140. So
because that's the one you want?
that's one.
We have the parking council.
parking. So it's 40-foot tall building, 25 feet away from the next house,
From the street.
And the next house.
and the next
Any
house.
property or street.
But the house next is, okay.
That's
Well,
correct.
it's 25 feet
From the property line.
Line.
Street line.
Okay.
So somebody asked when these parcels were purchased, it looks like Halliday's the current owner. The lot on the right was picked up in 2017 and the lot to the left was 2018. And Halliday, I believe, is the applicant.
Yes, Hollow Peter.
Peg development,
Okay,
Halliday is
is the owner.
is the property they manage, I think.
what's that?
Halliday, don't they manage the property?
They're tied in with things.
Now, aside from that, what they're requesting, can we propose something different to the council, or are they?
Well, we can do anything we want.
Two instead?
We can make any motion that passes.
You can recommend, yeah, whatever, as a body.
So they're, from the property line on the southwest, what's the setback from their property line? Is it 25 feet?
25 feet,
And the building is how high?
40 feet.
So that's pretty steep for the people who live in that house right next door. They've got this. Well, they probably will be at the meeting. I guess. So
Probably up the hill from them too.
that's pretty flat.
It's just that State Street is down.
State Street is down.
State Street's
On the
flat.
back side, it goes down to State Street, but the street itself is almost level.
Yeah, it's fine.
Who owns that empty stuff at the end of that, at the end of Terrace Drive? Is that in Provo or Oro?
It's in Orem. Provo has their water tank next to that vacant parcel.
Mhm.
I'm pulling it back up right now.
The water tank sits roughly.
I did.
Right there, yeah.
Someone asked a question, so it always works that way, right?
I think that's,
Yeah, no, they're not having,
All of them.
well, some of them are.
some of them.
Some of them, it's a beautiful development. We love this.
Yeah, it looks
Same
pretty.
problem with this, their water tank.
Yeah, Provo City
talked to
owns the
someone who
land
lives
at
there.
the end of the road that's in Orem City.
Anybody that doesn't want?
West side.
Yeah, actually,
Small sample size.
they own,
Sample sucks.
they own everything
This is the line right here.
outside of the houses.
That's
No, I'm glad you did it. I went to drove by and the development is beautiful and detailed.
Yeah, but further off the screen.
and it goes down.
So that orange,
Shed impressive.
if
Yeah,
you go
right,
to
right
that
down
one,
in there
right,
where it's a bunch of trees and,
on the right, that bottom orange parcel and the two lots are owned by Provo City.
Yeah.
Anything without a building on is owned by Provo.
Yeah, when I'm back up, let's see, I usually turn off, so then I don't pick up the State Street.
But we own the road.
So I don't know about that little,
that's
I probably not on the side.
That's what I'm looking at now.
We own the right of way.
This-
So
this line-
there's our water tank.
We own these lots, right?
I think.
No,
Provo
The
does.
line goes up like
No,
this.
they just have.
Bump.
So we have the right one.
yeah, according to this, whether this is right or not.
This property is.
So part of our pre-meeting, we're gonna have some training. Is there any other questions on this project?
You want this?
So this is gonna be really great training. It's videos from Utah League of Cities and Towns.
Yes.
So
Is this the
as
same
part
one
of,
they showed at the,
many of you may or may not have been here when we started the meeting, but we are required now by state law to train planning commissioners, or you're required to have 4 hours of training. So part of that, we are going to provide that training in this meeting. So we have items that may not cover the entire full amount of time, we will try to do some, try to find some interesting videos. I can't promise that today. What is it? Windows P?
Yeah.
So a couple of these are just short videos, we'll watch them, and maybe we'll address any questions that you have based on.
government official, and you're involved in making land use or zoning decisions, or if you work with them, what we're gonna talk about today is the three most important things that you need to know. The decisions you make must be understood and handled correctly, or else you may violate someone's property rights or lose a lawsuit. Hello everyone, I'm Ray Bateman. I'm lead attorney in the Office of the Property Rights Ombudsman. And today we're going to be discussing what I think are the most important and fundamental aspects of land use decision making. The difference between a legislative decision, an administrative decision, and a quasi-judicial decision. If you're a city council person or a county commissioner, if you're a planning commissioner or staff, or if any of your duties in any way involve making land use or zoning decisions in your community, every decision you make is one of these three. But these decisions are all made differently. They have different rules, and most importantly, different effects. You know, the vast majority of local government officials rely on. They want to do the right thing. They want to follow the law. They want to protect people's property rights, and they want to make the best decisions for their community. Unless you're evil, we're talking about you. Understanding our discussion today is the key to doing that. In my opinion, knowing what type of decision you make is the first step in making the best decision. If you will remember your high school civics class, in America and in Utah, we have three branches of government: the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch, the legislative branch, which consists of our elected Congress. Their job is to take policy and make law. The executive branch, consisting of the president or governor, their job is to take the laws and enforce them. The judicial branch's job is to determine what the law is. Hopefully they're very smart, and their job is to interpret the law in case there's some kind of dispute. Locally, in your city or county, the same three roles exist, although they may be organized a little differently. There is a legislative branch of local government. Their job is to take policy, what the citizens in the community would like to see in their community, and to turn that into law. Those are local ordinances. The administrative role arises after the law is made, and it applies the law to different individuals or circumstances. For example, if a land use application is made, the administrative role is to apply the existing land use law to that application. And the quasi-judicial role is interpreting the local laws when there is a dispute. So let's talk for a second about each one individually and how it works locally. First, legislative. A legislative decision makes law. A legislative body does this by discussing widely applicable policy considerations and formulating laws to enforce those policies. What would we like to see in our community? Let's make a law to make that happen. Examples of legislative decisions include changing the general plan, adopting or amending ordinances, or annexation. Each local government has one body and only one body with authority to do this: the city council, town council, county council, or commission. No one else. And the standard of review is reasonably debatable that it advances the purposes of LUDMA. That's a low standard. A decision need only be reasonably debatable that it is good for the local community and it will be upheld. Next, an administrative decision. An administrative decision applies the law. There are no policy considerations in an administrative decision. There is no, is this a good idea, or does this work here? Those decisions have already been made and placed in the local code. An administrative decision takes an application and applies the existing law to it. Examples include subdivision, or a conditional use permit, or a building permit. An administrative decision can be made by any party that the legislative body appoints. Many administrative decisions are made by staff. Sometimes they are made by a planning commission, but they do not have to be. They can be made by any party appointed to the task. And the standard of review is substantial evidence on the record. If an administrative decision is supported by substantial evidence, it will be upheld. And finally, the quasi-judicial decision. A quasi-judicial decision comes into play in the case of a dispute, and it interprets the law. Every local government must appoint a person or body to handle this role, called a local appeal authority. Many places use boards of adjustment for this role, but that is not required. That's a quick overview of the three types of decisions and the differences between them. There are a lot of nuances we haven't discussed, but that's okay. This is enough to get started. Every time you make a land use decision, you have to think about the type of decision it is. Every time. If you'll do that, you'll greatly increase your likelihood of making the best decision. And hey, if you're going to make the best decision, hats off to you.
Okay, so what's item 3.2?
That is a legislative.
I was gonna say probably legislative.
You make a
Because we're, the
recommendation.
city council is gonna make,
You make a recommendation, so the way the city is set up, the planning commission makes a recommendation based on those decisions, and the city council is the one that makes the final determination. Either based on your recommendation or their decision, their discussion. Any other discussion on that? I do have another cheesy video.
I loved it.
hey, that was good, actually.
Planning commission, the Oregon Planning Commission doesn't see quasi-judicial city.
So we do have a board of adjustment. As, some items go appeal directly to city council, some appeal directly to board of adjustment.
So we only see administrative, like recommendations on the
So like
legislative.
a site plan is an administrative, you're just making sure it meets all the requirements. There's no, does it fit here, is this a good idea, it's already been decided, the idea is set, you're just implementing the ordinance itself. Any other questions? I think we have at least time for one. We only have 3.5 more hours.
Perfect.
And hey, if you're going to make the best decision, hats off to you.
Now, that was interesting. Yeah, informative.
So, what do we do now, Ombudsman?
So that sounds good. Is that what you said that's?
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to What Happened You Wear Part 2. I'm Brent Bateman, your friendly neighborhood ombudsman. If you watched Part 1 of this video, you remember that we talked about the 3 hats that local government officials wear. They have a legislative role, an administrative role, and a quasi-judicial role. The legislative role makes the law, an administrative role applies the law, and the quasi-judicial role interprets the law. Well, today in Part 2, we want to explain how to apply these concepts to the real-life work of local government. So, we've come here to City Hall to talk about planning commissions. But wait, put away that remote control. Even if you are not a planning commissioner, this information is for you. It's meant for council persons and mayors and city staff and property owners and developers. Knowing the planning commission's role and how it relates to the 3 hats will help us clarify the whole land use process for everyone. Also, let's set our quasi-judicial hat aside for now. The local quasi-judicial role belongs to your local appeal authority. That's another subject entirely, and it will require a video of its own, coming soon. Quickly, let's review. A legislative decision makes law. An administrative decision applies the law. A legislative decision could be a zoning change, an ordinance amendment, or a general plan amendment. An administrative decision applies the zoning to an application, like an application for a conditional use permit, subdivision approval, or building permit. A legislative decision can only be made by the legislative body, the city council. An administrative decision is made by whomever the city council appoints. So, knowing this, what is the planning commission's role? Is it legislative? Is it administrative? What exactly is the planning commission supposed to do? The planning commission's first and most important job is revealed in the name. It's called the Planning Commission. Its job is to plan, to make a plan for land use in the community that reflects what the community wants to be.
Welcome to Planning Commission meeting, folks. We're all very fortunate to serve our beautiful town of St. Vernal, Utah, and we're here to make a plan. So, what's our plan? What do we want our community to be?
I think we should have a mix of uses in town. So commercial is fine by the highway if we must, but I will only agree to farms and large lots over by Vamoose Creek.
We've got to keep the industrial areas over by Migraine Canyon.
And what should we do in Current Hollow? I think a golf course.
Can we zone for a KFC right next to my house? I'm hungry a lot.
Thank you. Great plan. You guys are all good. Utah law states that the Planning Commission's duty is to make a general plan or amendments to a general plan and recommend that plan or amendments to the City Council. That plan is the Commission's recommendation for what the community should be. That is an ongoing process, and it takes work, and it takes time, and it takes care. We have other videos that talk about the general plan and how to make a good one. For now, we need to know that this duty to plan represents one part of a Planning Commission's legislative role. The Planning Commission is helping to make the law. Now, the Planning Commission's next role, after planning, is to make recommendations to the City Council regarding zoning and land use ordinance changes. This is also a legislative role. Zoning decisions and amending the code make the law. The Planning Commission's job is to discuss, consider, draft, and recommend to the Council land use regulations and amendments.
Okay, welcome to Planning Commission meeting. Today, folks, we have an application from a Mr. Howard Widowmaker, who would like to change the zoning on his property. He would like to change the use from an ice cream shop to an outdoor shooting range.
And that will require a zoning change from the CF Commercial Fund Zone to the CD Commercial Debt Zone.
Do you really want that outdoor shooting range there? That property's address is on Kids Play the Road Avenue.
I knew you would regret me reading that. Well, let's hear what the public has to say. They always make sense.
Sound familiar? Well, that's the legislative process. Discussing, considering, and drafting land use regulations is, like planning, so important that the local legislative body, the City Council or the County Commission, cannot by law adopt or amend a land use regulation without first receiving a recommendation from the Planning Commission. And also, like planning, this is an ongoing process. It is a constant effort to refine a city code, to always make it better, clearer, easier, and compliant with the ever-changing state law. If this is done correctly, the Planning Commission should spend most of its time on these legislative roles. Refining and changing the plan and ordinances, even for the smallest towns, is a process that cannot be neglected. And finally, the Planning Commission's role may be to make administrative decisions. Administrative decisions do not change the law, but they apply it to individual land use applications, such as a conditional use application or a subdivision approval. The Planning Commission has this role only if the City Council has appointed it to them. Staff can also fill this role. It is up to the legislative body to decide what works best in your own area. Okay, folks, our last item on the agenda today. We have an application from our old friend Cletus McPoodleface, who would like a conditional use permit to open a commercial dog kennel.
That's in the middle of the RO zone, the residential oversleeper zone. Dogs are noisy. I don't like dogs. I say we deny. What does the ordinance say?
It says commercial dog kennels are allowed in that zone.
Shall we hear from the public on this one?
No way, Jose.
Then I move we approve with conditions. Like measures to keep the noise down?
And the smell. That's it? Really? Phew. Nice job, you guys. This administrative role is very important, but it is not a core role of the Planning Commission. Nothing in the state code gives the administrative role to the Planning Commission. However, if that role is given in the local code, it must be done promptly and diligently and in careful accordance with the law. So, that's the Planning Commission. Their role is to 1, create and recommend changes to the general plan. 2, create and recommend changes to ordinances. And 3, handle assigned administrative matters if delegated to do so by the local code. Well, I hope this clarifies what your Planning Commission should be doing, their intended role, and how they should spend their time. In my opinion, the best run cities focus on these roles, and they tie together. A good plan leads to good ordinances, and good ordinances lead to easy and correctly made administrative decisions. And as in all aspects of life, if we focus on what matters most, everything falls into place.
Any comments on that? Okay, so we do administrative stuff all the time. That's legal here. We've been given that responsibility by the council.
Staff approves things that are 10% or less site plans. So if somebody comes in and wants to add a 500 square feet to their commercial building, for example, and it's 10%, 10% or less than what's already there, the staff can do that administratively. Anything over that requires planning commission approval. So the authority to approve site plans and those types of things administratively has been given by the council to the planning commission.
So he made it sound like that's not the case everywhere.
It isn't, it depends on the council. So like,
When did the council set it up that way?
so well, in his example for the planning commission, in that example, approved the conditional use permits. In the city of Warren, the planning commission makes a recommendation, the city council actually approves the final conditional use permit. So each city council has the ability to outline how they want to approve. I mean, years ago, before I started here, the city council approved the majority of all site plans, so everything went to the city council. There are some PD zones, for example, the PD5, which is where the big boxes are, the RC Willie, those types of things, still require planning commission and city council to approve them, whereas in the C2 zone, it only requires planning commission. So it just depends on how the local authority is set up.
Probably the smaller the jurisdiction you have, the more likely the city council is to take on all those administrative approvals. But as you get bigger, they tend to delegate those assignments to the planning commission, site plans and subdivision plats and things like that.
Anything else? I think that's probably enough training for today.
Well, just regarding the neighborhood meeting, in the meeting minute, they told the citizens they will comply to Orem City's parking requirement. And did they tell them they wanted to change the parking requirement, or they just said they're gonna comply?
I wasn't there, I don't know.
Okay, so, and they also, quite a few citizens, concerns here that they said they will address a solution before moving forward, and I don't see any of those.
That's a good question to ask the applicant.
I will ask them. Yeah, there are quite a few of them here. It looks like there were 16 units that were drug homes that they got it and fixed up across the street from that unit. So Holiday owns 16 units across the street that were drug houses.
Yeah, they basically gutted all the apartments, I don't know if you remember, it's been
They cleaned them up.
10 years ago.
Oh, it doesn't tell me how long it's been in the
Right.
minutes. So I don't know how long.
So as far as the landlord goes, I mean, they're good tenant, good landlord, I should say. Okay, Chairman.
Do you have anything else you would like to address or discuss? All right. We'll go down to these council chambers.
If you want food, grab it, put it in the fridge, or it's gonna be gone.
How are you? That was good. So, that's part of our required training.
Yeah, 10 minutes, minutes, 4 hours training.
Yeah. what I do is no longer sufficient under the law.
It's not?
No,
You can do it for 4 hours.
so did Jason tell you this is sort of state mandated training now?
testing. Oh, yeah. We'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's Orem City Planning Commission meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. And as I neglected to ask anyone else, I'll go ahead and offer the invocation. Thank you. Father, we are grateful to be here in this particular Planning Commission meeting. We know that there are items that we will be discussing. We pray for a spirit of kindness and thoughtfulness to pervade our deliberations this afternoon. And we ask this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. There are no announcements other than November 3rd will be our next meeting, which we'll announce again at the end. With that, Cheryl, item 3.1, and then, okay.
Item 3.1 is clarifying language in the existing code. However, due to noticing issues, we will need to continue that to November 3rd.
Okay. So can we get a motion to continue, please? Barry?
I move that we continue the request to amend portions of sections 22-1-3C, enforcement, and 22-14-28F, garage sales, to clarify language to the November 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission meeting due to an error in noticing.
Second?
Second, Marisa. We'll just do Hasem.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Item 3.2.
Item 3.2 is Sienna Villas rezone. We want to change approximately 0.51 acres from the R65 single-family residence zone to the PD29 zone, which is next to them, on Columbia Lane. And they also want to amend portions of the section 221142 PD29 zone pertaining to overall density and parking requirements, and amending Appendix V of the Orem City Code with updated concept plans and elevations. So this is a map of where they are located. You can see State Street and Columbia Lane, and then the two lots that they want to change from R65 to PD 29 are right there to the southeast. These are the existing plats showing that the two lots are currently in the Orlean Terrace amended plat, and Sienna Villas is in the Sienna Villas Plat A. This is the site plan, and in the PD 29 zone, the ordinance says that setback will be a minimum of 25 feet from all property lines and public streets. So part of what they want to do is change the density from 27 dwellings units per acre to 28 dwelling units per acre. They want to add a new building that would have 21 units in it. They would add 9 one-bedroom units, 6 two-bedroom units, and 6 studio units. That would change the number of units overall from the current one of 81, plus the 21 would be 102 units. If they change the density from 27 dwelling units per acre to 28, it would work because they have 3.64 acres with 28 units would be 101.92, which would be 102 units. They also want to change the parking requirements. Business, they have different kinds of parking requirements at the current time. They have business hour parking requirements and non-business. Business hour parking requirement is defined as 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, and they provide at least 1.75 parking spaces for each one-bedroom dwelling unit, and at least 2.25 parking spaces for each dwelling unit containing more than one bedroom. During the non-business parking hour requirement, they provide at least 2.25 parking spaces for each dwelling unit. And they have been tracking the parking demand and utilization of their parking over the past 9 years, and they have found that the usage is significantly lower than the current required amount. You have this handout, Matt gave this to you in the pre-meeting. In 2012, their high usage was 1.2%. In 2016, the high usage was 1.37% of their overall parking space. And in 2021, it's 1.35%.
1.35 units per, rather than
Parking stalls,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. So they want to change it to just an overall, anytime, 1.75 parking spaces per unit, regardless of the number of bedrooms. They also would not charge for parking, and that would be part of the ordinance. It would prevent them from charging for parking. So all parking on the lot would be free of charge. There's also, to the north of them, they have a written agreement with the dental office, and it's recorded at the county where they can use their 24 parking spaces after hours. That's why the after hours or business and non-business hours come in. So they can use those parking spaces weekends and after hours. So they currently have 45 one-bedroom parking stalls, which would be, they would need to require 79 units. They have 36 two-bedroom units, which would require 81 parking. So they would need, the required parking would be 160 units. They provide 176 units, parking spaces, this does not include the 24 spaces in the dental office to the north. If the new requirement of 1.75 for all units is 179, they're providing 162, which does not include the 24 spaces on the property to the north. This is the elevations. It shows that the highest point on the roof would be 40 feet tall. These are the concept elevations. The new 21-unit building would match the existing buildings that are there. I think they currently have 3 other buildings that have those 81 units. And these are the floor plans, shows about 2 studio units per floor, and the 2-bedroom units and 1-bedroom units. I think there's about 1-bedroom units per floor. This is what it looks like now from the street with the Sienna Villas currently, and then the 2 vacant lots that they want to incorporate into the PD 29. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission send a recommendation to the City Council. And do you have any questions for me?
Council, any questions for Cheryl? Commission, excuse me. No questions? This is a public hearing, and we will now open it up for comments from the public who are here in attendance. And any of you that would like, we also have the applicant here with us, correct? Is there anything you would like to add to this? Okay, Cheryl, is there anything? Yes. Now, any of those members of the public that would like to comment, if you'll step to the podium, give us your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes maximum to make your comment. So please feel free to come to the podium.
My name is Pat Bursey. I live at 1854 South, 543 East in Orem. Maybe a couple questions or observations. First of all, reducing the parking requirements to 1.75, I fear may not prove sufficient as far as having enough parking space, even based on what the studies have been on the existing apartment buildings there. I also fear that by saying 1.75, we could be setting a precedent for future developments. And I say that because in our neighborhood, a couple blocks north, are the Canyon View Apartments. Good luck finding a parking place there if you go to visit someone. And the streets on 400 East, they're by those apartments, they're always filled up by residents of those apartments. And also, I'm not sure which street it is, but the street that's to the south of those apartments. So that's a major concern for me. Something I thought of as you were going through this and talking about 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and studio. The fact is, if you have a married couple living in one of those apartment units, you better count on 2 cars. We are not one-car families anymore. And a young couple generally, even if they're students, will have 2 cars. I don't know if there's been a study done on that, but that's just my personal observation. Any questions from me? Okay.
No, but thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, no, for yours.
I'd like to say thank you for this hearing. I have a few concerns about.
Your name and address, please.
Yes. My name is Mara Garcia, and my address is 199 South Terrace Drive in Orange. My concerns about the requesting rezoning, I just wrote here a few things. I have many, but first, the traffic problems. It will create pollution and safety issues, overflow of tenants' cars plus tenants' visitors. Lack of easy access to emergency health assistance of other emergency. Terrace Drive is a dead end also, and that worries me. Neighborhood tranquility and personal privacy for the owners. And also it will reduce the property values because of these problems that I mentioned. It will destroy the sense of community in our neighborhood. Crowded, poor parking, etc., etc. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Were you at the meeting minutes? Did you attend the neighborhood meeting? Yeah, did you attend the neighborhood meeting?
Not the neighbor meeting, but
And-
I was talking with some neighbors.
Okay.
In my neighborhood.
The lady that was right before. Did you attend the neighborhood meeting as well? What? She's not in the neighborhood.
Yeah, she's not immediate. Are there any other comments from the public? Please.
My name is David Miles. I live at 1660 South, 350 East. My parents live on 1925 South Terrace Drive, which is right on that street. So I just want to say I moved into the area, into that house in 1989. So over the last 31 years, I've seen the changes on that street, and I've really not appreciated what I've seen. They may have done a study to say how much their parking usage is maybe in their lot, but what about the cars that are constantly out on the street? Are those part of the study? Who knows? But anyway, there are constantly cars out day and night parking down up and down the street. My concern is that that's just going to keep pushing its way further and further down the dead-end street. And then, coming over, I come over there regularly. I'm within a mile of the home. And so, I'm thinking about my rights as both, a citizen of Orem, and to be able to go to my parents' house and be able to park in the street in front of their house. I kind of worry about, that kind of a concept. My rights versus an owner of a building down the street, because once you start, I know from human nature that people are just going to find the most convenient place to park. It's just really, that's what it is. And I do live over by the Canyon View Apartments, and that's horrendous. And for the community, the people that I visit near there, across the street from it, that has really been an inconvenience to them. They cannot just generally have somebody come over and visit them and park right in front of their house. It's always crowded, always. And it's that fence. So what if there's a fence? People are parking on the south side and on the west side constantly. And that's what my concern too is, this parking.
Are you talking about Canyon View Apartments right now?
Yeah.
Well, I'm showing that as an example.
Yeah.
And yes, I was saying that, and I'm afraid that that's gonna, when you start, you're gonna put in more units, and the parking already goes down to, from what I've seen from those houses, sometimes it comes clear down the street,
About how many houses down?
There's the 2 empty lots, and generally, The parking, you will find housing or parking taken up to about the empty lots, but then it does on occasions swing into the empty lots, and my time's up here, but anyway, yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Lene Millett. I live at 288 West 1500 North in Orem. I saw this was on the agenda, and I've heard it talked about, so I thought I would just drive by and see what was there. How many of you actually have driven in this neighborhood?
Yeah,
So you walked around those vacant lots, you saw what was there? Did you see the vacant lots there and where they were in relation to the home next door?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess the thing that I thought when I looked at this development is I thought, okay, the existing development has a carport. The carports are against the vacant lots. Good buffer for whatever home was there in the first place. What's proposed now is a 40-foot building without a buffer of a carport right next to the home. So that makes that home next to it less desirable as residential property. Also, we're looking at 2 single-family home building lots, and every time I go to a city meeting, I hear, we need to have places for our kids and our grandkids to live. I don't know how many people want their kids and their grandkids to live in a studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment, but I think a lot of us want our kids to be able to build a home in Orem. So to rezone this from residential and allow studio, 1-bedroom apartments, you're taking away that opportunity for 2 more homes and 2 more families to build homes in Orem. So I think that that's something to consider, besides the visual that was mentioned in the work meeting of the angle. You know, you've got the 50 feet, I guess, the 25 from the property line. Well, not 50, but the 25 from the property line, 40 feet tall. That is a pretty steep angle, and I would not want that built next to my home. So that's not really preserving the zoning and the property rights of the home on the other side of this development. So those are the points that I thought of when I walked out there in that neighborhood and saw that. And maybe some of these folks aren't talking, but they had, when I knocked on a couple doors down there, the one woman said, I don't know anybody who wants this in the neighborhood. So I'm not sure what was at the neighborhood meeting and when that was held, but I'd kind of want to look into that a little bit more too to see if there was some good feedback given. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Richard West, live at 1941 South Terrace Drive, so I'm on Terrace.
Where are you on Terrace? Are you up near the apartments, or are you way down the street?
I'm 3 or 4 houses down the street.
Okay.
We've had a lot of additional parking between the apartments on the south side, the Holiday Apartments, and the Sienna Villas. A lot of parking from those apartments on Terrace Drive. It's not been unbearable, but it seems almost absurd that you've got all this parking and you've got a stairway coming off of the current Sienna Villa building right out to the street, which causes, I would say, all of that parking on the street. Certainly more convenient to park on the street than to go walk all around the building and go to the parking lot, which should be the case. Don't know why it was designed that way or allowed to be built that way, but I couldn't tell when they flashed the pictures through how those the new buildings are oriented, but if they're the same.
Mr. Holopater, yeah.
I can't tell from looking at those if the stairways go again out to the street.
I think it doesn't.
Not on the new building.
I think it doesn't matter because there's a wall.
There's a wall, how? Between Terrace, the sidewalk? And
I think so. Isn't that walled off? Did I not understand that?
They said that the design of we were told in our pre-meeting that the design of the new building was such that it did not open out to.
It will open to the parking lot?
To the parking
my
itself.
understanding.
Yeah.
We need to look at that.
That's one issue that was addressed.
Yeah. Okay, well, that would be very very much appreciated and preferred. The other thing, whenever you're talking less than 2 cars, my wife and I manage an 18 apartment complex elsewhere in the valley, and we're finding it's always 2 cars now. We've been doing it for 7 years. When we first started, it was maybe not 2 per unit, but now it's always two per unit, and we're running into problems. And in this case, I just can't believe that these high-end, nice apartments, and they are gonna have less than that, and I just don't wanna see more parking, more kids, more moving vans, and et cetera, creating problems and property value reductions on our street. So thanks.
Thank you.
Carol Miles. I live at 1925 Terrace Drive. I too am concerned, and many of the reasons have been expressed already. I attended last year's meeting. We were promised that even though there might be a reduced requirement for parking, that we would still have at least 2 parking spots per unit. And I also noticed that Orem City, or Orem, did a study of parking in these high-density areas, multi-use areas, in 2018. They particularly, among them, was targeted this Canyon View crossing that we are all watching what's happening, and that in their study, they found that there were 28 cars parked outside the high fence. So even a high fence has not deterred parking outside. They interviewed people who said they are parking in the street because it's more convenient, and that's what we're going to see, I'm thinking, on Terrace Drive, even as limited as the parking already is in the street. And anytime you get parking on both sides of a street, you really only have one single lane to drive in. You cannot pass another car. So if we were in an emergency situation, coming, going, we would be blocked from every side. That study, again, I'm referring to, suggested strongly that there be no less than 2 cars per unit. And as Pat mentioned, even a studio or a 1-bedroom is going to include at least 2 cars per unit. Thank you.
My name is Henry Miles, and I live at 1925 South Terrace Drive. And I just have a question. I'm wondering, you see that even though you have the parking in behind the fence and by the apartments, that those people can park their cars out in the street, but we can't. I mean, can you can you do something so that we could go in there and park in their places? I mean, that's what the hell's going on there, is that it doesn't matter what we talk about here. If they don't use that parking lot and park in the street, you could have all kinds of parking lots and the street will be full, and the damn parking lots will be empty. So I just wonder, what do you do to take care of a situation like this? Have you got any ideas on that? Has this ever been brought up before? But it's a real, as I see it, it's a real problem. As I've seen over there at the Canyon, where there's all kinds of cars in the street, but I've seen it, there's parking places inside the fence. What do we do about it? We do something to your tires, or
that might not be advisable, Mr. Miles.
Thomas. I live at 1901 South, 543 East, which is around the corner. It was my grandfather who found the Orem mammoth, which is across the street from Sienna. I don't know if you knew that or not, but it was right there. I attended a similar meeting as this when Sienna was being proposed. Feelings are about the same now as they were then. And parking was a concern, and it is crowded on Terrace Drive, and that was not supposed to happen, but it did happen. Sienna is a very well-kept place, and it's been a nice addition to what was there before, or a nice change. It's well-kept, and they're nice neighbors, except for the cars. And my question is, a few years ago, another apartment across the street from Sienna, the Meadowlark Apartments, was proposed. I stood here and questioned some things, but the proposal was for a 25-foot apartment, which is across the fence from my backyard, which has blocked our beautiful view of everything. And it's 34 feet high. But no one did anything about that, because apparently if you say 25, you can do up to 35 at that time. Are they going to be restricted on how high this is going to be? Is it exactly 40 feet, or is there some leeway, about 10 or 15 feet like there was in my backyard?
Cheryl?
So the concept plans will be a part of the ordinance, and they will be restricted to what has been proposed. So they would be restricted, to these concept plans, which state that the highest point is 40 feet. And it would have to look like these concept elevations.
So the 40 feet is the very top of the roof?
The highest peak.
The highest point on the roof. Three-story building is proposed. They could have put 4 stories in, is that correct?
I'm not sure if the PD may restrict the height. I'm not sure. I didn't
50
search
feet,
that.
I believe.
Well,
But
29 has its own rule.
what they're proposing is 40 feet, so they wouldn't be able to go higher than that.
And they're proposing 40 feet.
And these plans will be a part of the appendix attached to this PD zone, so they would not be able to go higher than 40 feet.
What they did with the Meadowlark Apartments, they hauled in 6 feet of dirt also. So it was proposed for 25, and plus the 6, plus the extra 9, made it 40 feet high. And I don't think you would like to live next door to
No, I wouldn't.
house next door to this is going to like it either. It's going to devalue their property. Thank you.
We wish to thank all of those of the public who have been here tonight and who have commented. We do appreciate it. We like seeing a full house. It'd be nice when we get the whole thing full of chairs again and people. But with that, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion for this item. And we'll turn it back to the commission for any further comments.
Well, I have a question. There's
Said comments. Ross, no.
No, I can do anything I want. How come those lots haven't ever been built on? There was a wreck on there, but is there some smart real estate person who can tell me why those lots sit empty?
You said smart.
Sure, come on up.
I know that about within the last 10 or 15 years, maybe it's been, the lot, the second lot east from the apartments, somebody wanted to propose that they put 3 units on their triplex there, and on Terrace Drive there, and I guess the citizens asked that not be allowed as well. At that time, it was a different situation, I guess. But anyway, I know that much was attempted, and lot that is empty. There was only one empty lot.
Right.
Yeah.
There was housing on the other one, so that one empty lot, somebody did try to go ahead and put a triplex on there once.
It just seems funny to me that it sat there for so long.
Please.
Go ahead.
There was a derelict house on that west lot, and so we acquired that one, a couple of years ago, and then we tore it down to ensure that nobody would live in it, housing homeless people. So it's really only been those 2 lots for probably the last couple of years.
So you've owned the property for?
2 and 3 years, or 3 and 4 years.
Has anybody inquired about buying it for single?
2017 and 18.
Yeah, 1 in 17, 1 in 18, I think.
Yeah.
Has there been any interest in putting a single-family dwelling there?
Nobody's come to us.
Ross, you asked a little bit about, smart real estate people. I don't know if I'm smart enough, but, often with real estate, we look at highest and best use, right? And no one else purchased the lot when it was a derelict house. And no one else had purchased the empty lot. So if no one had purchased them and they were sitting there, the highest and best use then is what they can be used for. So obviously a triplex wasn't allowed. So we're looking at either single family, which is what it's zoned for now, or adding it to the PD 29.
I have a question about the meetings, the neighborhood meetings. They were done on September 2nd and 3rd, 2020. Is that common practice to have 2 meetings back-to-back, 2 days in a row?
I'll let Jason answer this, but typically they don't need to have 2 meetings. They usually just have to have 1, so I'm not sure why they had 2. Maybe the applicant could answer that.
During the pandemic, and so they allowed more opportunity through the Zoom meetings to allow more people to attend.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And the neighbors were all appropriately notified, because there was quite a few that participated in those 2 Zoom meetings that you held.
I'm showing 5 neighbors, the first one.
Well, you have 5 responses. I don't know how many people participated.
Do you have a number?
You have a number? How many people participated?
Who attended those meetings asked the question, so you can basically use that as the role.
Okay, so you're...
As you can see here, very, very passionate about this project, so, yep.
Thank you.
And there are 11 houses on the street, if I counted right, so that's like half the people. That's a good turnout.
Yeah.
Got an accurate, how many?
Yeah, no, that answers the question. I have a couple of more questions for the applicant. It shows here in the first meeting on September 2nd, on the summary, with proposed additional 21 units, attempting to rezone. In the parking item, it says that PEG will comply with Orem City's requirement. And I understand from one of the citizens that they were told they may ask to lower the parking requirement, but no less than 2 parking per unit. Is that what you guys said?
We did not say that, the 2 units, but what we do have is we have 1.75 that are going to be built as part of the whole development. And then with the easement that we have, it gets us up to like 1.98. So during the non-business hours. So on the easement, it says 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and on the weekends.
Okay, so you did not tell the citizens that you will ask for less than 2 per unit.
I don't recall that,
Okay.
so.
And the other thing, it says on here that traffic item, access to State Street will limit traffic through residential community. Have you been able to obtain access through State Street? Oh,
So there's a massive slope.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah.
yeah, so there is no
We
access.
haven't,
State
there's no
Street.
access to State Street.
But that was mentioned to the citizen, it will be though.
Um,
You placed in your meeting minutes.
UDOT will not.
I understand, I'm just asking.
No, I think what this means here, access to State Street will limit traffic through residential communities. So it's probably not stating there will not be access to State Street, but it will just be access through the normal residential community as it is currently laid out right now. So when it says access to State Street will limit traffic through residential communities. So we're not creating any type of traffic pattern to State Street from our development. So, I mean, I guess looking at the wording here, I see it can be a little confusing, but there's no intent to have any type of traffic pattern through the property or through that side to State Street.
Okay.
And there never was.
There never was, okay.
I have a question for you while you're up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've seen the studies where, I mean, your parking lot's got lots of room in it, right?
Yeah, we do.
But it doesn't matter how empty the parking lot is if everybody's out on the street.
Yeah.
And Young Dental compared to Terrace, I know which one I'd park on.
Yeah, I mean, if we could, it'd be great to zoom in on this picture that we have here to show a little bit about the parking. If you could, you can see, it's as good as it gets. Okay, so that's a little different.
Cheryl, could you pull up a Google map of that you can blow up?
This actually isn't too bad. We could try this for now if you want. If you look at Terrace Drive's on the south of the property, right?
Where the new buildings will be. New building will be.
Right. And so there is a red curb along Columbia Lane. Terrace Drive that's what we're seeing in the parking counts that we're seeing. And I could take a few minutes to try to clarify some of the comments or questions and thoughts on that and what the parking study was really what we've been able to see through the parking study. We do have residents that we need to park on the south of Terrace Drive, or excuse me, on Terrace Drive on the south of the property, on the west side of that entrance. So we do recognize that there are that residents that do park there, and like the good gentleman stated, that those residents probably park there and walk up. There's a slight incline if you've been to that property, up the grassy incline and get the sidewalk and go into their units. We recognize that. The layout of the new building is angled a little bit along with that with the layout of the site, and so our intent is with the sidewalks and we're also going to add some parking on the westerly side of the new building as the layout looks. So the intent is to have all the access to the new building from the parking area. We'd be willing to look into, there you go, that's pretty helpful there. So you can see how the sidewalks are laid out. Most of the units, they could probably access on Terrace Drive. We'd be willing to do a red curb or do some type of wall there to be able to restrict that. I don't know off the top of my head if we're allowed to build within that, a little wall within that setback. 3 feet. We could do some rose bushes or something, some thorns or thorny bushes to keep them from
Cactus.
whatever. Cactus. It's environment. But anyway, something to keep the residents from being tempted to walk straight across the grass. We don't like that either, as they walk across the grass. If there was a desire for the residents or for us to red curb that northern section of Terrace Drive around our property, we'd be willing to do that too.
Well, unless that just pushes people down the street, and then that's worse.
Yeah, or, and then they go to park inside where we still believe we have ample parking.
So how many new parking places are going in?
So we don't have any new parking stalls going in, because right now we're only using 100 and at maximum 111 of our 180 that are in there.
Okay, but you have those parking stalls that are shown right next to the building, they're already there?
No, those are new. So there's a little bit of rearrangement. but not adding numbers.
Not adding, well, but location is the issue here. It's convenience of parking, not just parking.
Sure, yeah,
And so those are convenient parking places.
correct, those are more convenient than,
And there are how many, and then there are some across the parking lot from those two.
yeah, yeah.
So how many convenient parking places is that for the new building?
13.
12 or 13, yeah. 15. Off the top of my head, looking at that, it's around the 10 to 15 range, and then right across from those is probably another 10 or so. So you have anywhere from 20 to 25. And if you consider we're using
20.
maximum 1.4 per unit right now, and we're adding in studio units and one-bedroom units, which I understand there's the opinion, we think we are pretty well covered there, so.
Yeah, except that it's convenience of parking that matters, not just parking.
Mhm.
You could build parking places across Columbia Lane and have that be part of your complex. It wouldn't help.
Right, right. So yeah, that's why we actually appreciate this design. We think that there's some additional convenience there next to that building.
For less than half of the cars that will be there.
I mean,
Oh.
if you look at the parking stalls across from the parking lane, I mean, that's relatively convenient as well. I guess the question is
That's like 20
Yeah, but it's a much
or
short,
28 units.
much shorter walk than parking
20,
on Terrace
yeah.
and walking across the wall and walking in, Russ.
Yeah, but it's 21 parking places for 28 units.
No, it's only
It's
21
not.
units actually.
Anyway,
It's what?
21 units.
21 units, sorry.
Not only that, it's just whoever's parking in terrace right now. I mean, if they're not using those spots at the moment and they're parking in terrace, that will increase the
Yeah,
probability.
there'll be more
that
people
live here
parking on Terrace.
use the convenience spot, and then the rest of the people will go on terrace.
Yeah.
I see your point.
all right, so we're going over that. Thank you for your.
Okay.
All right, let's bring it back to the commission then for a motion. If we can go back to that, yeah, thanks, Cheryl.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Marisa.
I recommend that the Planning Commission send a positive recommendation to the City Council to amend Article 22-5-3A and the zoning map of the City of Orem by changing the zone on approximately .51 acres from the R65 zone to the PD29 zone Sienna Villas at Columbia Lane, located generally at 1863 South and 1875 South Terrace Drive, and amend portions of Section 22-11-42 PD29 zone Sienna Villas at Columbia Lane pertaining to the overall density and parking requirements of the PD29 zone, and amending Appendix V of the Orem City Code with updated concept plans and elevations located generally at 1859 South Columbia Lane.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Shauna. Barry?
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
2, motion passes. Thank
For the purpose of the minutes, this goes in there, right? I think it's going to push at least 10 more cars down Terrace Drive, and there's only 11 houses there.
And I think I would have been okay with 2, but not 1.75.
I think that if there's on-street parking, we should be using it.
Well, we thank you. We have the minutes. Let's go ahead and go to the minutes now. Did anybody see anything that we needed to correct or change on the minutes? Then I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Second?
Thanks, Marisa.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, that passes. Mr. Clark?
It's just good to see all of you. Thank you for being here. It's been quite some time since we've had a planning commission, so thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Then motion to adjourn, I will make. Motion to adjourn until November 3rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned, thank you.
somebody was saying, Cheryl was saying November 23rd, is that right?